today, the Electoral Commission of South Africa is issuing its annual report on political party funding. Meanwhile, a non-profit organization is taking the commission, the president, including 2 ministers and several political parties, to court. My Vote Counts wants changes to the Political Party Funding Act, which came into effect in 2021. The organization has filed an application to have aspects of this law set aside. It wants more transparency on private donors, such as the Oppenheimer family, for example, the Motsepe family. These are families that usually contribute towards political party donations. Erin Bates is outside court. Erin, good morning to you once again. I know you made it clear in our earlier crossing that the court hearing is not today, but today what is happening is it is the lodging of papers. Talk to us about the involvement of the president here, the 2 ministers. Why are they part of this latest application by My Vote Counts in order for there to be more transparency that is needed when it comes to political party donations?
Yes, Xoli, well, the President is cited as one of the respondents in this matter because, of course, he signed into effect the Political Party Funding Act, which came into action in 2021. Similarly, those 2 ministers, the Ministers of Home Affairs and then Justice and Correctional Services, are cited in their official capacity because they relate to this legislation which is now in effect, the IEC South Africa 2, along with those political parties. And what we're going to have to find out next is what their response is to this application from My Vote Count, seeking for far more clarity in terms of private parties' donations to political parties. So prominent families such as the Oppenheimers and Motsepes, you've mentioned, private individuals as well. Xoli, interesting, in the application which has now been filed in the very court behind me by My Vote Counts, there's mention of this 15 million rand cap, which My Vote Count says is excessive for private donations to political parties. It also says that there simply isn't sufficient transparency over who is bankrolling our political parties. All this coming to light as we head into the final stretch or gauntlet ahead of the 2024 elections. Now, in addition to My Vote Counts being here at court today, Xoli, we also have the organization OUTA, and Rachel Fisher is a researcher in Parliament for OUTA. Rachel, why is it that OUTA decided to come here today for the filing of this application?
Okay, so the Organization Undoing Tax Abuse is not part of this court's application, but we do support My Vote Counts in principle because we do feel strongly about accountability and transparency when it comes to who is funding political parties.
Now, if we look back to Bosasa, for example, its involvement in ANC election campaigning involved things like food parcels, T-shirts, providing support around rallies, and even providing an election centre for the ANC. Bosasa is no more, but how did those kinds of donations fit into political party funding?
Okay, so the Act does look at donations in terms of cash and in kind, as well as membership fees and levies. However, the amounts that they allocate to these donations in kind, they can disclose, but we don't know, are those amounts deflated or are they made less so that it doesn't raise any alarms. We are very curious, though, as to what could be the other potential contributions to political party funding. For example, things that fall without the scope, such as if there were sales for tickets for events.
That makes me think about tables, for example, which may run into millions of rand. And we know of at least 2 political parties, the ANC and the EFF, which have held events and then sold seats at tables. So at the moment, we simply don't have any information on who's buying them and where exactly that money is going. Is that right?
Yes. So you would think the legislation is very clear on this, and it is not. We've tried our best to go and ascertain where would that be covered, and we can't find exactly where that is speculated in. Also, if we contacted the Independent Electoral Commission, we are seeking clarity, because those sales of tickets can easily go above and beyond those thresholds as is currently covered for private donations.
Now, lastly, there is an IEC briefing this afternoon from 1 o'clock. It's going to deal with an annual report on political party funding. It's clear from the My Vote Counts application that their view is the current legislation is inadequate. But what are you looking out to hear from the IEC today?
So we want to see better protocols and mechanisms in place to make sure the amounts that are being disclosed are accurate and that the public has access to it. Look, in all honesty, we don't want to go to court every time we want to get information, right? We just know for a fact that where money is involved, it influences decision making. And no more so this is true than in politics.
No more so true, Xoli, as we head into the election run-up in the next couple of months ahead of 2024. Of course, that IEC briefing will be reflected on Newzroom Afrika this afternoon. Our colleague Govan Whittles will be covering that. And it's going to be interesting to see now in the second year running what disclosures are indeed in that annual report from the IEC South Africa reflecting input from political parties. It's one thing to have laws in place, whether or not they're sufficient. It's another thing to comply with those laws and then have consequence management for political parties who renege on their reporting duties. All of that likely to come to light from 1 o'clock this afternoon on, there goes my earphone, Xoli, Newzroom Afrika, Channel 405.